This presentation is about childcare centres and dealing with the COVID pandemic. It's a lessons learned session. So it's going to take us into the US, Australia and New Zealand. We're going to be finding out what childcare centres at different stages of this process have been, what different jurisdictions are doing to deal with the pandemic, and how this is affecting childcare centres, communication with children, communication with parents, operational issues such as dealing with staff, etc. So the idea is to get a perspective and allow both anyone who's watching to take away some of these concepts and apply them to an environment where perhaps the childcare centres outside can react and deal with issues that have improved based on the information and lessons learned from other people. So today I've got Mary Lou Johnson from Happy Hall Schools in the United States, in California. I've also got Tony Christie, Director from Child Space in Wellington, New Zealand. Lauren Ryan as well from, she's the Principal of Child Space in Wellington, New Zealand, and Rachel McLaren, Director at Rachel's Place in Brisbane, Australia. We might also be joined by Rachel Heck, who's the Executive Director at Happy Hall Schools in California with an operational perspective as well. So first of all, Mary Lou Johnson, do you mind introducing yourself and letting everyone know who you are, etc.?
Yes. Well, I'm really pleased to make this connection globally. I think that it's just such a powerful way to connect and have an opportunity to learn from each other. I am actually retired from Happy Hall. I sold my schools not long ago, and I was there for 45 years. And my current role really is to support early childhood educators, and I'm a community leader in a variety of different ways. And so it's been quite interesting to focus on being creative, to think outside the box on this COVID-19. It's, as all of you know, is devastating all over the world, and I'm so pleased to be here with you. So
Mary Lou, do you just mind giving us a position, like just an overview of where you're at currently in California? What's happening currently with the childcare centre?
Well, it's an essential business, and so we have been given the direction that you can be open. I have been on a forum with about 150 owners and directors, and the majority of the schools are, well, each school, and the majority of the schools are closing because of enrollment, and parents truly are staying home. We have a shelter in place, and everyone is ordered to be home unless you're an essential business. And the schools are, from about 450 children, a current school, Happy Hall, is operating with about 15 to 20 children, and they're primarily serving those that are first responders, primarily.
Okay, and so when you say they're closing because of attendance, do you mean attendance is so low that it's not worth continuing with the numbers that are available?
Well, parents are shelter in place, so almost every business is closed, except if you're a takeout or if you're an essential business. And so for those reasons, families don't need the care.
Right, okay.
Happy Hall School is open from 6:30 in the morning till 6 in the evening, 5 days a week. And then we had also school age programs and summer program coming up. Our summer is coming up because yours is just ending. So enrollment went from about 400 children to 15 to 20 children.
Wow, okay, excellent. I'll just get Tony to introduce us. Thanks, Mary Lou. Tony, can you introduce yourself, please, and just give us a perspective of what the situation is in New Zealand?
Sure. Well, obviously it's taken a lot longer for COVID-19 to come to New Zealand, and we're a small country as well, which has really given us the benefit of being able to see what's happening overseas. We have a pretty bold Prime Minister who's made the move to put the entire country into lockdown. So while we have 0 deaths so far and only 205 cases nationwide, they are mostly due to people having returned from travel or coming from travel. So our borders are now closed. Our everyone's in lockdown as of midnight last night. So only essential services are to open, and childcare is not considered an essential service. So all our essential service workers are expected to find alternative childcare arrangements so that there are no kind of community hubs operating like that. So this is all very new to us, lockdown as of yesterday. We also have been handed an extraordinary economic package by our government. So we have wage subsidies in place whereby we can lock down now for a month, and we aren't charging parents any fees, and we are paying our teachers 100% of their wages.
Wow. Okay. Well, thanks. Thanks, Tony. I'll just get Lauren. Lauren, do you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your perspective of where we're at?
Sure. So I am Lauren. I'm the principal at Childspace, and I work with Tony. We've got 4 services. Each service has a centre manager who I mainly work with quite closely, but my role is to support all 4 of the centres. In New Zealand, it feels like this has moved really quickly. I think about 2 weeks ago we had a managers meeting, and I was speaking with the managers saying, well, what would you do if if anything happened, if it came further into New Zealand, and they didn't really know, and then 2 weeks later the whole country's in lockdown. So it feels like it's been a very fast process for us here in New Zealand, and as early childhood teachers trying to respond. And now, of course, because all of our centres are in lockdown, all of our teachers are now trying to find creative ways to keep in contact with families, and that's kind of our priority at the moment. Yeah.
Oh, good on you. Okay, thanks very much, Lauren. Rachel, do you mind introducing yourself and giving us an idea of what's happening in Brisbane at the moment?
Hi, I'm Rachel McLaren, and I am a director owner of a childcare centre in the centre of Brisbane in Australia, very close to the central business district. And I guess in Australia at the moment there's 2,423 cases, and in Queensland there's 443 cases at this point, wherein the government is slowly closing different services down, so they're taking a different approach, and so at the moment we've just had a new range of services close, which is cafes, bars, gyms, but schools and childcare centres are open. It's taken a little while for the public in Australia, and it hasn't been until the government started closing down services that people have been starting to think that it's a real thing. And so we're in the childcare centres at the moment, we're just seeing parents starting to stop coming in now. The government the Australian federal government and the state government are bringing out stimulus packages, and they're still rolling those out. And so they seem to be drip feeding them out. So it's a little bit confusing about what is going to be offered completely. And so at the moment they're offering payroll rebates, refunds, payroll holiday, and a deferral of payroll. So for the next 12 months, we won't have to pay payroll tax, and that is trying to get us to keep our staff employed. And they're also offering loans and interest-free loans. So, but we're not being given any particular money to keep our staff employed at this point. But they are continuing the childcare subsidy. So it's an interesting scenario, because for a childcare centre, they need to be able to keep the enrolments current to be able to continue that childcare subsidy coming in. And so it's put us in an interesting position, because it almost encourages childcare centres to try and keep parents enrolled, which is obviously what we want to do anyway. But people are being asked to stay at home unless they're working. So it's a little bit complicated. It would be in some ways easier to just have everyone asked to stay home, but it's that's just kind of wanting to have the security of knowing what to do. So yeah, and I guess every 3 or 4 days something new comes out. So we're just having to keep on top of all of the information coming out, and I guess really hold your team and the community together. So we're working on some packages to try and keep our community together online. So.
Okay, great. So let me just go to the first question then we've got here. I'll just wonder if you can discuss the impact of COVID-19 on staffing issues. So with regards to staffing issues that have come up, does anyone have any perspectives that they can share? Mary Lou, perhaps you have some perspectives from the US position.
Well, from a staffing perspective, I think that as a director and owner for so many years, the first thing that comes to mind is that you want to be sure that your staff is well taken care of and that they think well about their own families. On the other hand, we have a responsibility to think about the families that are enrolled in our program. So it becomes a really tricky situation to, excuse me, support our teachers and also figure out a way that to manage the needs of our families. Because we have so many children not currently attending, our staffing is having to be at school is not such a significant thing. What the school has done has been really helpful because we're a private for-profit, so we function only on tuition. I say we, it's really not my school any longer. I have sold it, but I can't let go of it in my heart yet. And the teachers have what they're doing now, conducting circle time and activities in their classrooms by themselves and having a Zoom with all of the children. And so
right.
Every single day they have an activity set and for a period of time throughout the day. So each age group is having contact with their teachers and they're able to see their buddies as well. And
yep. Okay.
So I really find that the connection is the key thing, to keep the connection going and try to keep the fear down, keep everyone feeling like there's still this hope and possibility of being with one another.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. And how about in New Zealand, Tony and Lauren? What's your experience there?
Well, we're just we're at the very start of a lockdown, so we're already thinking about the things we might do to stay in touch. And I think Mary Lou's suggestion of Zoom's a great idea. What we've asked for all of our teachers at this point is, as they're still away, they're away for at least a month, but they're on full pay. So what we're considering it is that they still have a responsibility to remain connected to their key children. So we have a system in our services where each teacher has a key group of children. So that for infant and toddler teachers, this might just be 4 families that they really have this key relationship with. And we're asking them to maintain that key relationship so that they can still offer support, advice, guidance. But also we're looking at putting out a series of videos, and we've asked all of our creative kayak or our teachers to contribute if they can. So we're looking at doing things like posting little science activities, art things. One of the teachers stopped by yesterday, before we were in lockdown, to pick up some lavender from where I am. She wanted to do a demonstration online for parents how she makes children lavender foot baths so that they could replicate this at home. This is a sort of a ritual that they have at the centre that other children at home could benefit from. So we're kind of at the moment really exploring where are all our teachers' strengths and interests and how can they bring those to the fore during this time of crisis and kind of share those in a virtual way with our parents and our children who are, they're all scared and they're in a different situation now, and they're finding themselves, like Lauren, working from home but with toddlers there, so kind of a very different situation to be in. So we're still feeling our way.
Wow. Okay. Lauren, how about yourself? Have you, you're dealing with the staff on a daily basis. Have you found that there's anything that you've learned from that communication or managing those staff?
Well, I think our staff towards the beginning of the week were getting a bit somber and worried, a little bit anxious. I think it's really important as leaders to try and spread calm as much as possible, and part of that is being prepared. That was our focus last week, was being prepared as much as possible for all different kind of scenarios, so that we knew what was happening and we could tell our teachers and our families what they might need to know if they came to us with questions, and even if it was that we don't know but we are thinking about it, we're working through it, and that actually helped a lot of our teachers to stay calm, but also that we are, for the community, we're a place of calm as well, and so being able to share that calm with our families. You know, teachers are the key touchstone for a lot of families who are worried and anxious as well, and so trying to keep that connection as much as possible. And the videos and things that Tony shared with you just before is a really exciting way that even though we're far apart now, we can't see our families, we can still share that reassurance and that calm and keep connected, and that's actually what's going to get us through this, so as communities. Yeah.
Right. And how about you, Rachel? What's your impression with regards to you know, dealing with staff and staff issues?
I think going on from what I was saying earlier about the kind of uncertainty about financial viability, that has a big impact on all of the team currently, and also the uncertainty of what might happen with COVID coming in, because we're open. And so, for example, there was a scenario last week that one of the teachers came in with a slight cough, and also I'd just been traveling before the lockdown came down, so I'm working from home. So I've got my assistant director running the service currently, and so I'm hearing all of this secondhand. But the team were really worried that someone had come in a bit unwell, and he was sent straight home. And he had a bit of a panic and rang the doctor and ended up getting tested for COVID, and then had to stay home for 3 days. And we let the parents know that he was away and probably had a cold, but he's been tested. And so that, I guess that creates a little bit of uncertainty in everyone about what's happening in the time that there's a lot of fear. The test came back and he just had the flu. And so, we have processes in place saying, do not come to work if you're at all unwell, but people are really uncertain right now, and they're not quite sure what to do. So even though you have good processes and procedures in place, people are are scared and worried, and they're worried about their health, and they're worried about their family, and they're worried about their financial security. And so I've been meeting with them virtually on Zoom every Tuesday, and those meetings have been really helpful. So being able to see each other's face, be a bit silly, but also connect and hear their stories has been really a really valid way of helping people to relax and know that we just need to follow the plan that's in place, and we will work with everything, and these are the things we have to follow. So dealing with that kind of people's anxiety is an extra element that makes it a bit difficult.
I wonder if I could, sorry, I just wonder if I could turn to the communication with the kids that you're having. I'm going to start with Mary Lou. Mary Lou, I'm just wondering if you could give us a bit of a description of how the childcare centres are communicating with the children, explaining to them about COVID, explaining to them the things that are going on, or if they're closed down, continuing that communication beyond closed down, if that's even possible.
I think that Rachel Hack, who's the executive director of Happy Hall, she's really doing an amazing job. She's the key person that's doing the communication and orchestrating various types of ways to keep connected, not only with the staff. The staff is really important to keep them connected and seeking their ideas and eliciting information from them. But the main thing that they're doing is through Zoom, keeping the circle times going and having that level of connection. One of the things that we do is, I don't know how many of you are informed, but are aware of hand in hand. And hand in hand primarily is to bring out lots of feelings and closeness and connections with children. And part of that is bringing a lot of laughter. And bringing a lot of laughter really releases many types of feelings. And so I think the key thing is not to give them so much cognitive information, but to interact with them in ways that you can, playful in ways that they're able to roar and run and just get their physical movement going for the children that are there. And then giving the parents information. I'm right now working with about 150 owners and directors and really talking about how socially and emotionally we can support the children, support the families, support each other, but being able to set it up at home with the children. I did a little teeny demonstration with a family that trying to do, and all of, especially Rachel, she's right, she knows the root of this work, and having these forts that you build and go underneath the tables with the children with flashlights and getting in there and having discussions. And when you are able to do that, many, many other types of feelings come up for children. And so I think it's really the playfulness that we're bringing into it and teaching families how to be playful. And in that playfulness, there's a lot of laughter, a lot of connection, a lot of closeness. And that's what we're after right now.
Okay. Have you noticed that you're able to continue communication with the children even once the childcare centre was closed? Are there any instances of that occurring? Have you got any plans?
Well, what Rachel is doing right now, Rachel Hack, is that she's coordinating the daily Zoom lessons with the teachers and the families at home. I don't have numbers how many are actually Zooming in, but apparently there's a good amount of them Zooming in, and it's done during a specific time during the daytime. And
Okay.
it's day.
You're basically setting up your own TV station, effectively, interactive TV station for the kids.
Back in the olden days in California, there used to be a station called Miss Nancy Romper Room, and that's
Right.
what it's probably feels like.
Excellent. Okay, cool. I'm going to go to Tony now and see if Tony's got any suggestions. Tony and Lauren, you guys come from the same sort of childcare centre, groups of childcare centres. What are you guys doing to communicate with your students or your kids and communicate with them? Maybe even, well, now you've closed, after you closed.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, there's a couple of points here. One is that now that we are closed, yes, looking at innovative ways, but it is day one, so we're, right at the precipice of that. I did leave a whole lot of art supplies out in our woodshed so that people who need to can come by and pick them up so that they can follow along with us with a class that we're going to start running tonight. But that's really more for teachers and parents, actually, just to keep them, it's a meditative drawing thing, to keep them calm. We have a Facebook page at a couple of the centres that they've set up, and the parents are contributing and teachers are contributing. Everyone's contributing to that, just to say, they're posting things saying, here we are, day one, this is what our house looks like, kind of thing, and this is what we've been up to. So they're kind of sharing ideas and strategies and scenarios, which I think will be really healthy, really helpful. But I think prior to shutdown, I think one of the things that really struck us as leaders was, these kind of things, when you're in a crisis situation, it really does bring out the best and worst in people. And we did find that we had some teachers who, if they weren't, if they got panicked, then that panic spread. So, they could upset children, they could upset parents. And then there were other teachers for whom they had a really good understanding of the situation and could really do what Lauren was saying before, and that is really spread that calm and just remember that, as leaders, as role models, as somebody who people are looking up to in this situation, we have the opportunity to be able to take a deep breath, hold somebody's hand and walk them through this and not kind of panic them through it. Yeah.
I guess definitely some people find dealing with difficult situations quite awkward and quite difficult, and that you don't see that until something comes along. And ironically, that's kind of too late, because at that moment you're trying to calm everything down. So putting the right people in the right positions to
for us too, it was a matter of, we were fielding worried parents and worried teachers, this, that and the other, and this is what we've heard and this is what we think should happen, and telling us what the rules were, and we were trying to, this was when things were shifting hour by hour. Right now we're in a full lockdown for a month, so it feels as though everything's just finally calmed down after what I feel like was a week of absolute mad panic, because there was different information out there and people were all kind of, when rumours start and, oh, we're going to go into lockdown this afternoon, so we better be prepared. So we've got to start sending parents home. And we're like, no. What we need to do is work on the facts, and we will give you those, and we'll give you all the facts when we have them. But you need to help us out here and do your part, which is stay calm, be with the children, make sure the children are comfortable, while we do our part, which is find out what the facts are and get them to you as soon as we can.
Yeah, I guess in that void of certainty, it gets filled with both panic and like
rumours.
Fake news, I think, isn't it, Mary Lou? It's the American equivalent. So, Lauren, have you got any lessons learned regarding communication with the children? Do you sort of wish you had prepared in advance to communicate with them after you close now? Is there something we can learn here in Brisbane?
I don't think that I wish we had prepared too much in advance, because every community is different, and of course we've got 4 different centres, and so the 4 different communities are finding different ways to connect. So Wilton Karori 2 centres have that Facebook group, and that's a fantastic way to get parents connected as well. So parents connecting with each other and sharing advice and support as well. We did make it quite explicit on that Facebook page as well that it was a positive space, and it was to share ideas and activities. It wasn't a place to share any misinformation, so we had to make that quite clear from the beginning. But our other centres are doing it differently. So Northland's using Educa a bit more. So Educa Story Park, those sorts of online opportunities, but sharing things like their kai rituals, things that they do outside at the centre, and that seems to be a good way that parents are able to comment and share as well. Nio Centre is setting up WhatsApp groups with so a couple of teachers and their key children, so the parents and the teachers just in a WhatsApp group together to share what's happening for that particular child at home, and the teacher's able to keep commenting and keep supporting them with learning and experiences and that sort of thing. So I think each community needs to do their own kind of support for what's going to work best for their families. So yeah.
Cool.
And then the videos that we're planning, they are kind of more of an overarching for the whole organisation. We will put those not just for our organisation but for early childhood. So what we'll be doing with those is we have a YouTube channel, and we're going to put those out to our Facebook followers who, we have many in Australia as well as New Zealand and other parts of the world. So we're thinking about obviously our families and our children and our teachers, but it will reach a much wider audience of people who are all going through, similar things at a similar time, and maybe can benefit from the kind of the fun and energy of Robin's just dressing up in his science alter ego costume to, I don't know, blow giant bubbles and explain how to make the mixture at home and what to do. And I'll be taking people through a meditative drawing process. We've sort of tapping into those different talents and then putting it out to as wide an audience as we can, just to say this could be of use.
Sounds like there's going to be some fantastic resources that quite a few people are going to be able to tap into. So I'll actually include a link to your website in the description when we publish the video to allow people to find that information. I'll just go to Rachel now. Rachel, I'll just unmute you, and could you please tell us about your communication with kids and what you think you're going to do beyond closure, which I guess is going to happen, do you think?
I think it will happen as the numbers increase. I think that the government will at some point close, although it sounds like in California they've been given options. So in some ways the government saying you have to close is an easier option than deciding if you have to open or close. So I'm hoping that they close this. Anyway, so a lot of the things that we've been talking about are similar to what Tony and Lauren have been talking about in regards to the support suite that we're offering parents. But there's a few things that are a bit different, so I'll just explain those ones. We're offering smaller support groups for the parents via Zoom twice a week. in smaller groups to be able to talk about how they're feeling. So they'll be guided support. So Sabina and I have been supported by Patty Whiffler in the United States with the Hand in Hand. So there's a little support sort of network format that she has suggested that we're going to use, and it's people listening to each other. So that's why they're in smaller groups, listening to what what's going on for them, what's on top, how they're coping, what how they're not coping, just to be able to hear and be able to listen to those feelings, so that with the intention that then they're able to offload a little bit of that and then be able to think more clearly for their families. And so we'll be offering those a couple of times a week. And I guess that we're offering that because we're a little bit worried about families having to look after children full time when they haven't been doing that as well. Like, we're not worried, but want to support the parents to be ensure that they've got those facilities to be able to have the patience and the in a stressful time to be able to parent well. And we're doing
I guess that's a good point, because there's an increase in stress as a result of what's going on. People are financially unsure about what's going on, and then to have children in that environment where parents are extra stressed, and then the need to carry out childcare when they haven't had to carry it out before, is a whole new skill set that maybe people have lost if they haven't had their children around during the day, during those normal activities, while they're stressed as well. So I can understand how that would exacerbate.
It's not just that they have them full time, it's like they have them full time inside their house.
Right.
So,
yeah, you can't go out to parks in some cases, can you?
Yes,
so.
Right. And so so that's even more confining. So it's like trying to give people some ideas as well. So through a weekly newsletter and some context with the team to give them some strategies at home as well. And we're also hoping to do the Zoom classroom to just give them a bit of a break from having to be with it, to be constantly supervising their children. Maybe in that little moment they'll be sitting there on the computer and
I just want to go through one more question with everybody to sort of wrap up, hopefully with a bit of a positive concept, and see what you think opportunities have arisen as a result of this situation, things that you've learned that you're glad you learned, and things that you really wish you could you plan to implement or do differently in the future. So I'm going to start off with Mary Lou again. Mary Lou, do you have any I mean, in sort of a situation where it's a little bit, it's a bit of a scary time, but can you think of anything that's come out that you think is going to be positive about this? I'm just trying to unmute you. Sorry, Mary Lou, you're not unmuted, and I don't know why it's not unmuting you.
Try.
Oh, there we go. You've got it. Well done. Technology will beat it.
Okay. Before I go on to answering your question, is that the one thing that I'm noticing and concerned with, and I am consulting with about 150 schools, and the key thing is that everyone is really under a tremendous fear and a lot of unknowns. What's going to happen next? So the fear is huge, and the screen time that everyone is glued to the television, looking for those numbers every single day. How many numbers today? How many numbers? And now they're looking at what cities do not have numbers. So everyone's hearing it in the household. The children are hearing it. I'm taking care of my 92-year-old mother during this time. I have the safest house for her to be in. She's 95% blind, but she's writing down detail after detail what she hears. So I think that the key thing is, if there's anything positive, is to really figure out ways to not be so glued to that television, not to be so glued to all of the information. People have overbought supplies. Now they're concerned that they have to eat more because the food is going to waste. They have an overabundance of so much. And so I think the key thing is to try to simplify, focus and simplify on just spending quiet, simple time together. Just kind of like, I don't want to be old school in my thinking here, but like the olden days. of connecting and being playful and putting aside what needs to happen. I was talking to a director yesterday, and she was telling me that she's really concerned because the children that in her community are high risk. They're very high risk. So the abuse and predators and all of that is huge. And so she's trying to find ways to create playfulness. So I think that the key thing is that to walk away, that maybe this time we could really bring back some of those old school ways of being playful, interacting with one another, and just trying to figure out the fun part of life, because it's going to be this way for a bit of time. I did some numbers. I don't want to take up any more time, sorry, but our numbers are big here in California. They're huge. So I think playfulness is the thing that I want to encourage people to do, to find ways to do that with one another.
Okay, so it sounds like there's an opportunity to go back to some of the other ways of being, and you know, focusing on the playfulness rather than focusing on the situation that we're currently dealing with. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. Okay, thanks, Mary Lou. That's cool. Let's go to Tony and Lauren.
I think we've learned lots.
Yeah. And I think I agree with Mary Lou. I think she's fantastic. I think playfulness is exactly right. I think that if we can get communities of parents and families connecting and playing, then this is a real opportunity to learn something amazing from this. But I have a really deep, I have a very strong feeling that when all of this, you know, one day when all of this is over, that we, you know, as a race of people will have a much greater sense of gratitude for what we do have. And I do sense that there is an opportunity here to see, you know, a slowing down, a changing of how things need to be, what our priorities are. So yes, the opportunities, I think, are huge. I mean, you know, it hasn't been said in this forum, but it has been said in many others. You know, we have Mother Earth taking a well-earned break and a well-needed break from us. And we probably need to think long and hard about the changes that we can make, you know.
Yeah, it sounds like you're describing the fragility of things. We take for granted our health, so let's not take for granted things like the environment.
It's going to be just a whole new world out there. But I mean, you know, and on a simpler term too, I do think that I don't know how long we'll be in lockdown, but whenever we come out of lockdown, I have a feeling parents will appreciate their early childhood educators more.
That's true. How about you, Lauren? Have you noticed anything that is an opportunity that you want to take advantage of, or something you think is pretty positive out of this whole situation?
Well, I think something that feels stronger is connection, because we are reaching out to each other a lot more. Our teachers are reaching out to each other a lot more. They're reaching out to families a lot more. Families are reaching out to us a lot more. And there's just this strong sense of community that we're going to get through this as a community. So I think that's an opportunity, but it's also, we touched on it before, we're really getting to know people's true selves a bit as well, and really able to build on people's strengths, and those strengths are coming to shine at the moment as well. So being able to see those and then foster those is pretty exciting. Yeah,
I've noticed in situations that I've faced, not so similar, because nothing similar to this, but close to this, is that people you don't expect suddenly shine. And isn't it fantastic that somebody who maybe hasn't shined in other ways has their opportunity now to demonstrate their ability to demonstrate their skills and their being, you know, that person, as opposed to what you thought they were. So
yeah.
Thanks, Lauren. Now let's ask Rachel now. Rachel, do you have any sort of opportunities that you think have come about?
Yes, fairly similar in that I've been really touched and amazed by how our parents and our community have been really coming together, and how they really care about the childcare centre as their hub, and it's considered their part of their family. And you kind of travel along life and realise, you think that they're appreciative, but at this point they're all kind of bringing their hands out and saying, how can we help, and how can we make sure that we look after these people we really value who are looking after our children. And so there's no conception of our childcare centre as a business. It's more like it's part of this community hub, and that was always my vision for my centre. So and you know, sending out information to the parents, they're responding and saying, oh, this is really helpful, and you know, how can we contribute? And so I see it as an opportunity to deepen those connections and to be able to come to a deeper place as a community. And so that's exciting. I'm really excited about that. And I think that we have opportunity with things slowing down to tap into that instead of being too busy. So,
excellent. Yeah. Well, I think we're going to wrap up there. So I'd just like to thank everybody very much for joining us on this webinar, this broadcast. I think yeah, I can see Mary Lou would like to say something, so more than happy. Go, Mary Lou. I'll let me just unmute you, Mary Lou, so we can hear you. There you go.
I just want to say one thing. The one thing that a lot of directors are not thinking about is that look into to see if you have interrupted insurance. Many companies have interruption insurance, and so, but we don't think about it first.
Right.
So I think it's important just to check in about that.
Yeah, good idea. No, that's a very good idea that people should make sure they have that. That's definitely one of the positive responses. Last thing you want to do is make decisions without realizing there's that backstop there. So